Some empires built monuments,
Mm-hmm.
others raised flags. But America, it built bases.
Yeah.
Steel runways on distant lands, radars humming beneath foreign stars.
Right.
And neighborhoods in camouflage scattered across the globe.
Hmm.
Not as conquerors, really, not as colonizers.
No, something different.
But something quieter, something maybe longer lasting.
Mm.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're plunging into this sprawling global network of U.S. military bases.
It's quite a network.
Yeah, its sheer scale, its purpose, the often unseen costs.
Definitely unseen costs.
And what happens when a nation like India decides to chart a profoundly different course?
It's a really unique path.
So our mission is to unpack the fascinating insights from the sources you've gathered, trying to turn this mountain of data into something digestible and maybe even surprising.
Let's dig in.
Okay, so when you actually start mapping out the U.S. military's global footprint, the scale,
Mm-hmm.
it's just mind-boggling, isn't it?
It really is unparalleled. We're talking over 750 U.S. military bases,
750.
spread across more than 80 countries and colonies.
80 countries.
And get this, that accounts for something like 90% of all the world's foreign military bases.
90%. So America holds almost all of them.
Pretty much. It's almost like, as you said, America has sort of militarized the global map itself.
It really feels that way.
It's an extraordinary landscape. I mean, truly unlike anything else in history. Think about it. All other nations combined, they have maybe 70 foreign bases. Total.
20 versus 750 plus.
Exactly. The U.S. operates on a completely different scale, a presence that covers, well, virtually every corner of the globe.
And it didn't just happen overnight, right? This expansion really kicked off during World War II.
That's right. Especially with that 1940 destroyers for bases deal, big one.
Ah, the UK deal.
Yeah, the U.S. gave Britain 50 old naval destroyers, and in return, they got 99-year leases on 8 British bases. Places like Jamaica, the Bahamas, Trinidad, very strategic spots.
99 years.
And by 1945, the U.S. was building roughly 112 foreign bases a month.
A month. That's incredible.
Yeah, it effectively birthed what some people call the first empire of bases in the world.
An empire of bases.
That deal was really a pivotal moment. It signaled this huge transfer of global influence. And after WWII, the U.S. just cemented that dominant position, expanding the bases, asserting this sort of self-proclaimed right to intervene globally.
And then the Cold War just poured fuel on the fire.
Absolutely. It accelerated everything. Led to a peak of around 1,600 U.S. military installations in 40 countries.
1,600.
Now, while the total number is down now, half to about 750.
Still a huge number.
Oh, absolutely. But the footprint has actually spread. The number of countries hosting these bases has doubled.
So fewer bases overall, but in more places.
Exactly. More diffuse, you could say.
And it's not just the numbers, it's the sheer variety. You've got these massive strongholds, these little Americas.
Right, like Camp Humphreys in South Korea.
That's the one. It's the largest U.S. overseas base by population, right? Something like 40,000 people.
Yeah, military and civilian personnel. It has its own schools, hospitals, even American fast food chains, Popeyes, Taco Bell.
Like a slice of home, but heavily militarized. And the cost?
$11 billion.
Billion, with a B.
And it's the busiest U.S. Army airfield in Asia.
So that's the huge end of the spectrum. But there are other types, too.
Oh, yeah. Then you have what you might call strategic nodes. These are vital operational hubs. Germany, Japan, South Korea, they each host, hundreds of U.S. installations collectively.
Ramstein in Germany comes to mind.
Prime example. Ramstein Air Base is a major European hub for U.S. communications logistics. It was absolutely crucial for operations in Iraq and Afghanistan, for instance.
And the Middle East must be packed.
Oh, it's crawling with American boots, runways, radar arrays, as they say.
Yeah.
You've got Camp at Arifjan in Kuwait, Al Dhafra in the UAE, Prince Sultan in Saudi Arabia.
And Qatar has a big one, right? Al Udeid.
That's the largest U.S. installation in the whole region. Over 10,000 U.S. troops stationed there. Even tiny Bahrain hosts a key naval base for the U.S. Fifth Fleet.
Wow. And then they're the really small ones, the lily pads.
Exactly. These are much smaller, often just holding drones, surveillance aircraft, maybe some pre-positioned weapons or supplies.
Where do you find those mostly?
Largely in Africa, parts of Eastern Europe, Latin America.
Oh.
Think of a drone site in Niger or an airstrip the U.S. uses in the Galapagos Islands. Or the base in Djibouti, which has been used for airstrikes into Somalia.
So from massive cities to tiny pads.
Sure.
And what about U.S. territories?
Right, can't forget those. Bases in places like Guam, Puerto Rico, American Samoa. And this is controversial because the citizens there often don't have full rights. Some researchers even call these places mini microcolonies.
That's a heavy term.
It is, but it highlights the complexity and, well, the sheer depth and breadth of this global presence.
It really does.
And, it's not just about pure military might, although that's obviously key. If we zoom out, these bases are really components of a very sophisticated global architecture.
An architecture. How so?
Well, they serve multiple functions, sure, deterrence, projecting power,
Yeah.
but also providing a vital logistical backbone for operations worldwide. They really enable the U.S. to shape or at least influence global events.
Okay, I get the architecture idea, but it does make you wonder, whose blueprint are they really following? Is this truly about mutual benefit, or is there, something else driving it?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, the stated justifications are pretty clear.
Right, deterrence, being able to respond quickly.
Exactly. Power projection, showing strength. And there's historical momentum, too. A lot of these bases were set up right after World War II.
To oversee Germany and Japan, prevent them from rearming.
Precisely. Oversee the occupation, prevent a resurgence of militarism in the defeated Axis powers.
And then, like we said, the Cold War cemented it all,
Yeah.
containing the Soviets.
Exactly. That led to this huge expansion of infrastructure, setting up posts all over the globe in vulnerable areas to counter the Soviet Union and contain communism. That became the dominant logic for decades.
So history plays a big part. What about alliances?
That's another key justification. Many bases are in allied countries, right? Japan, South Korea, NATO nations.
So it strengthens those ties.
That's the argument. It strengthens alliances, provides a framework for collective security. It allows for joint training, makes sure different militaries can work together, interoperability, they call it.
And the host nations, how do they see it?
Well, often they see it as part of their own national defense. They feel like they're hosting the most effective and highly trained military in the world, which provides security.
Okay. Security, what else?
Logistics. These bases are absolutely vital logistical hubs. Staging grounds for deploying troops, equipment, running training exercises, even for humanitarian assistance sometimes.
Like after a natural disaster.
Yeah. And they reduce what military planners call the loss of strength gradient. Basically, it makes it easier and faster to project power far from home because you have these forward operating points.
Okay, that makes sense strategically. And isn't there an economic argument, too? That the bases bring money into local areas?
There is. That's often presented as a major benefit for host nations. Bases generate local jobs. Personnel spend money in nearby towns.
Like at Ramstein, you mentioned the American-style amenities.
Right. Some German towns near bases have become quite dependent on U.S. soldiers' spending. So diplomatically, it's often framed as a good investment for both sides.
So connecting all these dots, it's clear these aren't just like isolated forts. They're woven into this global system.
Absolutely. A global architecture designed to maintain U.S. influence and operational capability pretty much everywhere, with many, many layers of justification.
Sometimes the cost of that protection, as they say, is becoming someone else's target, which makes you stop and ask, what are the real costs? The ones that aren't always talked about. The hidden costs of this huge footprint.
Or maybe inheriting a conflict you never even signed up for.
Yeah.
And what's really fascinating here is that tension. The tension between the stated goal, security, alliances, logistics, and the often unintended, or maybe sometimes intended, consequences.
Like the impact on the host countries themselves.
Definitely. Take the whole issue of sovereignty. Some experts argue pretty forcefully that U.S. bases can really influence a host nation's foreign policy, kind of weakening their independence.
That story about the Ecuadorian president.
Yeah, refusing to renew a U.S. base license unless Ecuador could put a base in New York.
A bold move.
A very bold statement about that feeling of imbalance, of eroded sovereignty. And there's a history, of course, of the U.S. sometimes intervening in regime changes, too.
We'll get to that. But beyond politics, what about the human cost? The environment?
Huge impacts there, too. U.S. foreign bases have displaced millions of people over the decades.
Millions.
Yes. A really stark example is Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. The entire local population, the Chagossians, were illegally removed, basically exiled, to build the base there.
That's shocking.
It is. And then there's the environmental damage. Numerous complaints about massive garbage dumps, toxic waste, reports from Japan, Puerto Rico, Vietnam, Korea, and weapons testing programs have also faced scrutiny, especially in places like Latin America.
So displacement, pollution. What about friction with locals?
Misconduct.
That's another recurring and very damaging issue. We've seen widespread protests against the U.S. military presence because of the behavior of some base occupants.
Okinawa in Japan often comes up.
Yeah, Okinawa is a major flashpoint. Locals there often express deep resentment, absolutely hate the American military, is a quote you hear citing incidents involving assaults, even murders, sex crimes. The phrase, "shit the idiots do on town," captures that anger.
And it's not just Okinawa.
No. Similar issues in Shannon, Ireland over the transport of arms through their airport for U.S. wars. Now, host governments usually cooperate and turn over soldiers for prosecution, but not always.
But issues definitely arise when there's a perception or reality that soldiers have gotten away with crimes. That creates deep, lasting tension.
And the financial cost. Who pays for all this?
Well, ultimately, U.S. taxpayers foot a massive bill. Professor David Vine at American University estimates the annual cost is over $100 billion.
$100 billion
Yeah.
every year.
Yeah, and some U.S. citizens definitely see that as a huge tax drain. But host countries bear costs too. Germany, for example, pays billions towards hosting U.S. troops, building facilities.
And that $100 billion is just for the bases, not the wars themselves.
Right. Since 2001, the U.S. has spent something close to $6 trillion on its wars. The bases are just one part of that vast expenditure.
Trillion. And then there's the risk we started with, becoming a target.
This is maybe the most critical downside for a host nation. Hosting a U.S. base can directly pull you into conflicts you have no stake in.
Like the Qatar example.
Exactly. Qatar's Al Udeid Air Base, it became, quote, ground zero for Iran's retaliation after American strikes on Iranian nuclear sites back in June 2025, according to one analysis.
Even though Qatar wasn't directly involved in the initial strikes.
Right. Qatar was essentially a bystander. But because they hosted the base, they had, quote, no say, no shield, and no choice when the retaliation came.
Wow. No say, no shield, no choice.
It really highlights the profound risks involved.
That story just drives it home.
Yeah.
Sometimes the price of protection is becoming the target yourself. This whole deep dive, it really makes you question, beyond the official justifications, what are these true, often hidden costs?
Indeed. It forces you to confront this very delicate balance between, perceived security and the harsh reality of potentially inheriting someone else's fight or just seeing your own sovereignty slowly chipped away.
Right.
And if you think about the bigger picture, the broader impact, these bases, they're often described as just the tip of a much sharper spear, meaning they create leverage. They can be used to influence local politics, to pressure sovereign states, bend them towards U.S. will. It really begs the question, when does presence just become pressure?
And history seems to offer some answers there.
Oh, the historical record is, well, it's pretty suggestive. It shows a clear pattern of these military installations doubling as launch pads for wider geopolitical maneuvering, including interventions.
They say the sun never sets on this military presence, a bit like the old British Empire.
A different kind of empire, maybe.
But what really grows in its shadow, you just have to look at the history of U.S. interventions, often launched from or supported by these bases.
It's a long list.
Iran, 1953. The CIA overthrowing the democratically elected Prime Minister Mossadegh, putting the Shah back in power.
Guatemala, 1954. A CIA-backed coup gets rid of President Arbenz because he nationalized land earned by U.S. corporations.
Chile, 1973. The U.S. backing General Pinochet's incredibly bloody coup against the elected socialist Salvador Allende.
And more recently, Iraq in 2003.
Right. Invading under what turned out to be false pretenses, WMDs leading to just catastrophic regime change, years of occupation, destabilization.
And the list goes on. Cuba, Nicaragua, El Salvador, the Congo, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Libya. Many, many more instances.
It's a definite pattern.
It is. The pretext might change, fighting communism, promoting democracy, counterterrorism, humanitarian aid, but the effect is often the same. Regime destabilization, a serious loss of sovereignty for the target nation, immense civilian suffering, and quite often a permanent or long-lasting U.S. military presence left behind.
So the base becomes a foothold.
Exactly. And even short of outright intervention, just hosting a base can lead to aligning your country's policies very closely with U.S. interests, perhaps more than you'd ideally want.
Okay. So that's the picture, this vast, powerful, costly, and often controversial network.
Yeah.
But then there's India.
Ah, India, the outlier.
A really stark contrast.
Yeah.
Here you have a major nation, a key U.S. partner, sitting in arguably one of the most strategic locations in the world, the Indian Ocean.
Absolutely critical region.
And yet, India has never allowed a single foreign military base on its soil. Is that right?
Not one.
Not one. Not a radar dome, not a launch pad, no barracks, no little lily pad outposts, not even, as they say, a single foreign flagpole. Zero.
Wow. So this isn't just circumstance, it's deliberate.
Oh, absolutely deliberate. It's a core policy, deeply rooted in India's fierce commitment to strategic autonomy and, frankly, hard-learned historical lessons about colonialism and foreign influence.
They see foreign bases as, what, neocolonialism?
Pretty much. Imperialism in modern dress is a phrase that captures the sentiment. For India, hosting foreign troops would be politically toxic. It would ignite a political firestorm and carry a very steep electoral price for any government that dared to allow it.
And this commitment to sovereignty, it goes way back.
Decades. Right from its first prime minister, Nehru, through every leader up to Modi today, India's leadership has consistently championed strategic autonomy, refusing to align too closely with any single power bloc.
Like the non-aligned movement during the Cold War. Exactly. India was a leader of that movement. And while the world has changed, that fundamental principle persists. India partners with the U.S., sure, when interests align technology, trade, joint military exercises.
On its own terms.
Absolutely. On its own terms, which means, explicitly, no U.S. boots, no U.S. bases, no exceptions.
That clarity is striking.
It allows India incredible diplomatic flexibility. They can engage with Russia, America, China, France, Japan, all at the same time, maintaining different kinds of relationships.
And part of this must be confidence in their own military,
Yeah.
right? They feel they don't need foreign protection.
That's definitely a huge part of it. India doesn't feel it needs a foreign military babysitter, as one source put it. They have one of the world's largest standing armies.
Nuclear weapon.
A nuclear triad, yes, meaning delivery by air, land, and sea. They have blue water naval capabilities, ships that can operate far from home waters, a growing space program with ISRO, their space agency, advanced cyber warfare programs.
And they build a lot of their own stuff.
Yeah. Increasingly, yes. Significant indigenous defense research and development through DRDO. Self-reliance is a major theme.
So sovereignty, non-alignment, self-reliance. And also just avoiding trouble. Avoiding getting dragged into other people's fights.
That's critical. They have zero intention of becoming collateral damage in America's forever wars. They look at that Al Udeid example in Qatar.
Becoming ground zero.
Right. And they want no part of that. They don't want to inherit America's enemies or find themselves caught in the crossfire with, again, no say, no shield, and no choice.
A very clear strategic calculation.
It is. Now, it's important to note, while India refuses foreign bases on its soil, it does have its own modest and growing overseas military presence.
Oh, okay, where?
But it's framed differently, built on consent and collaboration, not domination. So they have access to air bases in Tajikistan for surveillance near Afghanistan and Pakistan. Naval facilities are accessed in places like Mauritius and Seychelles for monitoring Indian Ocean shipping lanes, listening posts in Oman, Madagascar, a permanent training team in Bhutan.
So a presence, but different in nature.
Very different intent and footprint. And they're careful about terminology, too. India does conduct joint military drills with the U.S., like the big Tiger Triumph exercise, and they've signed logistics agreements, like LMOA.
What does LMOA allow?
It allows U.S. and Indian militaries mutual access to each other's facilities for basic supplies, fuel, maintenance, port calls, things like that.
But that's not a base.
Exactly. Indian officials are always very quick to point out, logistical access is not base access. There's a very clear line.
Has the U.S. pushed for more? For actual bases?
Oh, persistently. According to sources, the U.S. has relentlessly tried and always failed to secure base access in India.
Even when India might have needed help.
Even then. During the 1962 Sino-Indian War, India desperately needed U.S. arms, but still refused to offer a base in return.
Wow.
After 9/11 in 2001, India did identify 3 bases the U.S. could use for limited operations related to Afghanistan, but explicitly no permanent base.
Limited use, not permanent stationing.
Right. And in 2003, when the U.S. was gearing up for the Iraq War, India flatly refused American requests for troops, logistical support, or any base access. Just a firm no.
So the message seems to be, India believes friendship doesn't require having foreign boots on your soil.
That sums it up pretty well.
And it's fascinating, this unwavering commitment to sovereignty, especially despite all that pressure from the world's most powerful military.
It is fascinating. But, that independent position, it comes with its own set of calculated risks. It really raises an important question. In this complex, multipolar world we're in, how does such a strong, independent stance shape India's future alliances and perhaps its vulnerabilities?
Yeah, it's definitely a calculated gamble, a tightrope walk, balancing that fierce independence with the intricate dance of global power politics.
And you have to remember what Henry Kissinger famously said.
America has no permanent friends or enemies, only interests.
Exactly. The U.S. currently sees India as a key partner, a friend even. But that friendship, like all international relationships, isn't necessarily permanent. Interests shift.
And we've seen signs of that, maybe. Shifts in U.S. diplomacy.
Well, there have been some recent moves, like the U.S. seemingly cozying up a bit more to Pakistan and Bangladesh. Some analysts see that as potentially signaling a reevaluation of alliances in the region, or maybe applying a bit of leverage.
And didn't a Trump administration official say something direct?
Yes. Trump's Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, reportedly stated quite bluntly that India was rubbing America the wrong way by buying Russian military gear and being part of the BRICS group. He claimed Trump was calling India out directly and specifically.
So in a world of shifting loyalties, India's consistent refusal to host bases could be seen, by some in Washington at least, as defiance.
It could be interpreted that way. And then there was that incident in May 2025 involving Kashmir.
Where Donald Trump claimed he stopped a war.
Exactly. He repeatedly claimed credit, saying his administration helped broker a full and immediate ceasefire between India and Pakistan during something called Operation Sindoor, claiming he stopped the war.
But India denied that, publicly.
Very publicly and very firmly. India's Foreign Secretary, Vikram Misri, stated clearly that Prime Minister Modi told Trump at no point was there any discussion of U.S. mediation or linking it to a trade deal. He reiterated that India has never accepted and will never accept the mediation of a third party in its issues with Pakistan.
That's a strong pushback.
It was factual based on India's account, but denying the U.S. president's public claims so directly. Well, it certainly risked irritating Washington, especially given how often Trump repeated his claim.
It shows how determined India is to control its own narrative and policy, even if it ruffles feathers.
Absolutely, and you have to understand why the U.S. might be so interested in India. Its location is incredibly strategic. It overlooks the entire Indian Ocean region,
where a huge amount of trade passes through.
a third of world trade, a quarter of the world's energy supply. An American base in India would give the U.S. just enormous surveillance and power projection capability across the entire Indo-Pacific. It's a strategic prize.
But the cost for India, if they ever did agree.
The consequences would be immense, almost certainly catastrophic for its foreign policy.
How so?
Well, India would instantly lose credibility with its neighbors, with partners like Iran, Russia, the ASEAN countries. Its entire standing would change overnight.
Its leverage comes from being independent.
Precisely. India's current global influence stems in large part from its non-aligned but multi-aligned diplomacy. That unique power, that ability to talk to everyone, would likely vanish the moment an American base appeared on Indian soil.
So refusing the base preserves its unique position, even if it carries risks with the U.S.
It's a calculated choice. The risks of hosting seem far greater than the risks of refusal, from Delhi's perspective.
Refusing a handshake too sharply, though, might earn you a slap, as the saying goes. It really puts India on this calculated tightrope.
A very fine balancing act.
What's truly fascinating, looking back at everything we've discussed, is this stark contrast. On one hand, the sheer expansive reach of American military power, its justifications, its very real and often hidden costs.
And on the other hand, the deliberate, almost defiant restraint of a nation like India.
Yeah. It really forces you to think about the nature of power itself, doesn't it? And protection and sovereignty in this world that's so interconnected, yet still full of fiercely independent nations.
Maybe real strength isn't just about reach, how far you can project power.
Maybe not.
Maybe it's about restraint, the kind of restraint that values national dignity over dependence.
And truly understands the cost, the implications of standing tall, sometimes even standing alone. Thank you for being on this trip with us. Stay curious, stay grounded, and stay tuned for the next one.